Hello, this is Richard Khuzami, and this is the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association's monthly meeting for the month of November, November 18th. Thank you for joining us. We have a great schedule today. There's a lot going on in the world, and hopefully we can share some information which will hopefully shed some light on what's going on and make every day a little bit easier to get through. I'd like to start with a little bit of news about the association and what we've been doing. It's always nice when we have a win, and we recently had one. We've been working closely with DOT, with John O'Neill in particular, with ourselves, with Lisa Stone of PS 171, the principal, Claudia Culver from the Astoria Houses Residents Association, and Andre Steit from Zone 126. We've been trying to create a school safety zone around PS 171. And to that end, in the past, we've gotten some safety zone signage up, cameras, and other traffic control equipment up next to the school. But what we had was a problem on the route from Astoria Houses to the school itself at 12th Street and Astoria Boulevard. Cars would go in and out. It was not safe also for kids to cross the road around there because there were too many large trucks, and they would have to dart out into the street without having line of sight. We were able to get DOT to put a four-way stop plus street lettering at 12th Street and Astoria Boulevard to allow for crossing the street safely. This is a big win. What's especially promising for us, and this is actually something that our councilman, Costa Constantinides, got heavily involved in also, was the fact that this was done before there was a death. It was often when changes are made, it's when an issue happens and the city government tends to be reactive. Well, in this case, it was proactive. So we applaud everyone for doing this. We hope that it's just the beginning of more and more changes of positive nature in the neighborhood. Also, we've been working since the last summer quite a bit with the local restaurants to try and save their business. The last two meetings, if you may remember, featured the New York City Hospitality Alliance going over a lot of issues. And it continues to be huge issues, especially with the winter season coming up. We've continued to work with them. Excuse me, at this point, we're primarily involved with getting out information to them. We plan on continuing this. Our small business is of primary importance. New York City, Astoria especially, will not continue to have the ambiance. It's made it so attractive for so many years without its small business and restaurants. So they must survive, and hopefully we can all do all we can to help that survival rate. We're looking at some different programs that we'd like to work on in terms of promoting business, not only locally, but also with the Upper East Side, now that we have the direct ferry service, which we were involved in also. And we hope that it's not only about making restitution for past problems, but for growing business in the future. And we tend to want to be, again, proactive and see what we can do to grow business in the future. Okay, so I'd like to start the program right now with some of our elected officials and their representatives, actually. So I'd like to start with Jessica Schabowski from the mayor's office. If she could come on, I would like to invite her here where she can give you some updates on what's happening out of City Hall.
Thank you, Richard. Hi, folks. I want to start off by just highlighting two recent initiatives before I expand upon today's announcement. One, the Open Storefronts program began on October 30th and will run until December 31st. This program permits storefront businesses to use a portion of their sidewalk to display merchandise, sell goods, complete transactions, and provide queuing areas. We're encouraging New Yorkers to shop locally this holiday season and support our small businesses. Secondly, as part of the Vision Zero initiative, the city's launched the 5th annual Dusk and Darkness campaign, reminding motorists how dangerous fall and winter evenings are for pedestrians and cyclists, especially after clocks fall back for the end of day. There's a similar education and enforcement effort taking place around new state laws, which require all motor vehicle passengers to wear seatbelts. Now, today the city announced that starting tomorrow, school buildings will be closed. We're concerned about COVID-19 case numbers, but we can still fight back a second wave. When we had open schools at the beginning of this school year, we had the gold standard of health and safety measures, included blended learning model, socially distanced classrooms, mandatory masks, widely available testing, and a contact tracing program. Our plan for reopening schools was the strongest in the country and among the most rigorous in the world. And we committed to opening schools if transmission stayed below 3%, which exceeded the 5% standard set by the World Health Organization and New York State. Now, our positivity rate in schools is 0.19%, which is less than 1%. So our schools continue to be very, very safe. However, today's indicators included a 7-day rolling average of 3%. So with those rising case numbers, school buildings will be closed starting tomorrow, November 19th. Now, this is a temporary closure. Testing will be heavily emphasized in the reopening of schools. And we also just want to emphasize to families that we need those testing consent forms sent back to schools. But our number one focus remains to get students back to school. And we will be working with staff to organize windows to continue to have the Get Food program available. Families can pick up food from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We're working with families so that all students have remote learning devices. Learning bridges will continue to be open for students in blended learning, and pre-K and pre-K classrooms in district schools and Dewey pre-K centers will be closed. And just also with regards to the upcoming holiday, we're encouraging all New Yorkers to follow the current health guidelines for the holidays, including don't gather and don't travel. Please wear a mask, please wash your hands, please social distance, and please get a test often. You can find your nearby testing sites at nyc.gov/COVID test. And we do still believe that we can fight back that second wave if we continue to tighten up our compliance with these health and safety measures that have been emphasized by public health experts. I just want to wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Good. Okay. If there's any questions, you can leave them in the chat in Facebook or YouTube. Okay. They will appear on our platform here. So any questions, anybody? If not, oh, listen, do this. If you're going to put questions down and you'd like to get an answer maybe after the fact, if you got it in a little bit late, make sure you put your name and your email address down so we can respond to you, okay? Because we will get back to you with questions, even if they're not answered specifically by the presenter at that time. Are there any questions? Okay, then I would like to bring on, oh, by the way, thank you, Jessica, so much. Really, really appreciate all the great work you're doing. You've helped us out a lot on a lot of issues, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard, for having me.
Good, thanks. Okay. Oh, I'd like to bring on Ernie Brooks right now. Ernie is a representative of Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, who we've been working quite closely with recently. So, Ernie, take it away.
Well, first of all, the Congresswoman who's in D.C. right now, I would like to wish everybody as a great Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, we will not be having the gatherings that all of us, including myself, would like to have with our family, but that's the way it is. We are entering a new and difficult period. And of course, probably the main thing people want to know about from Washington, whether there's any progress towards a new relief package. And while I'd say the Democrats are pushing as hard as they can, it's still up to the Republicans and McConnell to make some kind of a deal on that. But, you know, maybe we have another till the end of this week, and then I guess a few days next week to see if we get anything really quickly. Anyway, another thing she's been working on, which is more local, is pushing, and she actually helped work this out, I guess, with NYCHA, which is to get this reset of their maintenance structure there. It's called a pilot program, and it's running till the end of the year. And the main feature of it is to get more skilled tradespeople to the individual houses. And it's starting with the Queensbridge, Ravenswood, and Astoria houses. And the idea, if you have this skilled tradesman right sort of on the spot, that we can get this maintenance work done more quickly. And everybody knows there's a big maintenance issue at the Astoria houses, where one of the buildings has been without gas now for more than 50 days. And it's a particularly bad time to be without gas for cooking because of Thanksgiving and holidays coming up. And the congressman is doing all she can to push them forwards on that and get it done soon. Unfortunately, it's a big job. It's a complicated job, but it's still inexcusable that everything there seems to take as long as it does, and NYCHA really has to do better. One thing, we have to also do a shout out to all the people who've been helping out at Astoria houses. Evie Hansnopoulos has been there, I think probably the last maybe 4 Saturdays, or maybe even more than that, bringing hot food on Saturday afternoons to the residents of that building. Then on Sunday, Queens Together, led by Jonathan Forgash, was there delivering crock pots to the building, so they have something better than the one burner hot plate that NYCHA provided them with. And they gathered these hot crock pots from contributions, and I think Costco gave them a very good deal. So they were able to deliver those, and the congresswoman was there. Constantinides was there. The Queensboro president-elect, Donovan Richards, was there. Katie, the proud historian, was there. A lot of people were there helping out, distributing food. So I guess, and some of the food was provided by a restaurateur I know, Sarah Obradis, who runs M. Wells. So again, a shout out from myself, from the Congresswoman, for all the good work that's been done in Astoria. It doesn't make up for what the small businesses and what the people who are lost income and are struggling with paying rent. It doesn't make up for all that they're going through, but it helps. And as I said, everything that can be done from the congressional point of view to get some sort of a deal going is being done. And like I say, that's pretty much. There's another thing she's been working on as part of the Oversight Committee, which is trying to make sure that when the Trump administration leaves, the records that they have are not destroyed first and are turned over to this incoming administration. And again, she's got a lot of, with obviously a new president, hopefully coming in soon and on time, if we can get the old one to actually leave. The Oversight Committee is going to be very busy. And as the chair of the Oversight Committee, Carolyn will be very busy, hopefully doing the good work that needs to be done in Washington. Okay, well, thanks, Richard, for having me on. And again, if anybody has any questions, I can try to answer them or put them in the chat.
Yeah, put them in the chat. If you have questions, again, if you do put them in chat, please add your name and email address so we can get back to you if we happen to not at this point get to it. I'd also like to thank the Congresswoman for all the help she's given us. In particular, we're also, we have an interesting opportunity that we're now working on that's being initiated by the Congresswoman. This will be a long-term project on working on building up the activity between the Upper East Side and Western Queens Astoria waterfront through business, housing, cultural exchange, different things like that. This is facilitated by the ferry service. That's now it's a 3-minute ferry ride from 90th Street to the Astoria landing.
Right.
So we're looking forward to that and working with the Congresswoman to make this relationship strong and long lasting.
Right. There's also the work that's starting soon, I guess, on the seawall repair. On the, I guess it's around Astoria houses there, and that's a big project. I guess Carolyn's been involved in that, and the Army Corps of Engineers and the Parks Department. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's been going on for years. It's under the auspices of Parks now, but it's being funded by the mayoral funds, and it's taken gone through different phases, but it's taken over 10 years of trying to get this done. And finally, it looks like the light at the end of the tunnel is here. Sort of like the tunnel that's going to happen when we get a new president and they open up the new tunnel to Jersey too. That's a whole other story.
That's it. Yes, another really big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Any questions from anybody? Okay. Well, if you do have any, please don't hesitate to put them in, and we will go from there. And Ernie, I think you're going to want to stay for this. Oh, here we go. Nikki, we will get to this message in a few minutes. It's not something that we will have other people that will speak to that as far as a local lockdown. Do we have other speakers that will talk about that? But Ernie, we have a surprise guest right now who you and I know. You just mentioned his name. We're very lucky to have with us now the borough president-elect, Donovan Richards, who's joined us at the last minute. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. How you doing, Richard? So good to see you.
Good.
Oh,
good to see you too.
Crazy, insane day. I'm just getting in from the forbidden land of Manhattan.
Yeah, we're the new Manhattan. I'm sorry, they don't know it yet.
Yeah, but just crazy. I mean, it was only like 5 people on the street. I had meetings downtown today, so it was really insane to just see how little activity is happening down there. But never mind that. We're here to talk about Queens. And I'm really excited, and I'm not going to be long tonight, but just wanted to thank everyone who voted for me, everybody who didn't vote for me. Most importantly, the most important thing we can all do is be engaged in the electoral process. But, obviously, the election is, a few weeks away from officially being certified, but obviously my opponent conceded, so I'm proud to certainly be moving forward in this space and just look forward to working with everyone. We ran on a campaign platform that spoke to many issues that impact the entire borough. One of the best parts about Queens is, the more I got around to different corners of the borough, the more I understood how much more alike we are. Although we all come from different places, 190 languages spoken here, 200 countries represented in Queens. It's absolutely the most diverse metropolis in the world. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I know that there are a lot of challenges as we start to move forward. And you will hear the release of my transition team sometime either later this week or early next week, which is really going to encompass what Queens is. And there are a lot of opinions in Queens. There are a lot of people with different lived experiences, but we have a lot of work to get done, and the only way we're going to collectively achieve that is by working together. So even through different political ideology, different agencies, we're really looking to really be as inclusive as possible as we move forward. And I'm hoping that the transition team will lay out a real platform, a blueprint for where we need to go, although I have a lot of good ideas, I think myself already. But just moving in, immediately, obviously we have issues around the digital divide. Most of you heard the mayor today once again postpone in-person class for students like my son who's 4. And, that's never easy, and there's no right answer at this moment. But the point is there still are a lot of challenges around children in the school system who don't have access to computers as we speak, or their shelters don't have Wi-Fi, or they live in public housing and don't have access to Wi-Fi. So, we're going to be looking to take those issues head on to make sure Queens is getting its fair share. And then we could talk about healthcare, and all of us know how our local hospitals were impacted during the pandemic, making sure that they have the proper PPE. Even as we talk about, and I was very happy to be with Congresswoman Maloney's office as well, and Congresswoman Maloney this weekend as well. Even as they think about a stimulus package, we should be thinking of what are some key areas where we should seek federal intervention, and healthcare should certainly be front and central. And that means, money for our institutions, possible expansions, perhaps trying to figure out some ways to bring hospitals and expand healthcare across the borough. So that's heavy on my mind. And then food insecurity is a huge one. And we have a lot of work to do around food insecurity. I was just on with Queens Together. Actually, Jonathan, and I don't know if he's on this line today, but was on with him at 4 o'clock in the Queens are, because, you know, our small businesses are hurting. And
Absolutely.
right now, I would say that the city is not being creative enough in assisting them, right? So the city has this program where they're giving out food to people, and that's great, but why aren't they using the local businesses in Queens, right? I mean, I think, you know, you could potentially solve two issues there, right? Keeping businesses in business, but also, you know, enabling us to also feed people in these communities, right? So I think it's you know, it goes hand in hand, you know, if the city can get more creative. So, you know, it's a positive meeting. I'm hoping to see a lot more of that in Queens as we move forward, especially as our small businesses struggle. And obviously we need federal intervention there as well. And then I'll just end on, you know, it is despicable what we see happening down at the Astoria houses. And, you know, as someone who represents the Rockaways, you know, we were severely impacted during Hurricane Sandy. So I had developments without gas for several months, even down to no phone service, in some places no electricity. And part of it is we do have a dilapidated infrastructure system, and we're going to be looking closely and working with our federal and state partners to make sure we can bring as much opportunity to seize some of that money in Queens as possible. Just a quick story, you know, when I got elected, Southeast Queens, for instance, was a community that has struggled with flooding for nearly 40 years, 40 to 50 years. You know, there are parts of Southeast Queens where they never had storm sewers put in. So every time it rained, it poured literally in people's basements. And we secured about, I think, close to $2 billion from the de Blasio administration, which we've started on about 55 projects that have been slated, you know, that have been on the books probably before I was born. So those things have started. And, you know, one of the things we push the agencies on is ensuring that there's, you know, reporting mechanisms put in place. So, you know, we pass legislation around that. So we'll be working with our council partners and state partners and federal partners to make sure where we can make government more efficient and more transparent. We're going to do that in this office. So that's it. But, you know, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I know it's going to be Phil and a lot different this year. I know my family, you know, we normally get together, but it'll just be me and my son and wife and mother-in-law this Thanksgiving season. But may we count our blessings. We're here. May we pray for the people who lost people during this pandemic. And may we all mask up and be responsible. That's the only way we're going to get through this. And we're going to get through it together, just as we'll make Queens better together. So thank you so much, Richie, for having me. Look forward to the work ahead and working with this important civic association to ensure that your issues are heard, and most importantly, that we're responsive to the needs of the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was a great surprise. If anybody has any questions, again, you can put them in the chat on YouTube or Facebook, and please include your email address so we can respond. I'd also like to quickly say, Donovan, that I think we should give also a shout out to Sharon Lee, who's done a great job. And as a matter of fact, I have from her office. Yes, Sharon Lee is our current borough president, and basically she's got two events she asked me to bring out. One was a virtual parent advisory board. You would go to the Queens Borough President queensbp.org, okay, to get information on that event, which will be on the 19th at 6 o'clock. That's tomorrow. And then also December 3rd at 4:30 p.m., there will be a Christmas tree lighting at Borough Hall. It will be a socially distanced in-person event. Again, that information will be on the Borough President's website. And also it's happy Thanksgiving from her, and also from Joe Nocerino, who's her representative in this area. So I wanted to get that out there, okay? I look forward to working with you, Donovan, for the next 8, 10, 20, who knows how many years. Yeah.
Well, term limits certainly won't be.
Term limits keep changing. Anyways,
Donovan,
Yeah.
can I just say thanks for bringing up infrastructure.
Mhm.
I've lived in the corner of Long Island City I live in was under about 7 feet of water and sandy, and there's the whole wastewater system there is totally inadequate, hasn't been refurbished for many, many years. As far as I know, there's not even a real plan in place for fixing it. So in terms of all of Queens, that's something that really has to be dealt with.
Thanks for giving me an assignment already.
It's not glamorous. It's not glamorous, but it's necessary.
Okay, one last thing too. I want to thank you for your support that you've shown for business, and particularly, we were strongly in support. This is an argumentative project, but we were in support of the Amazon headquarters. We worked hard towards that. I know not everybody agrees with us, but we do, in general, I think everybody agrees that business needs to be healthy. Okay, so I hope that we continue to prioritize the development of business, especially small business, but all business too.
Yeah. It's a. Let me just say on that, it's a balance. Corporations and others have to understand that they have to work with communities, and we have to figure out creative ways to work together on community benefits. And I think at the end of the day, as long as folks are in line of making sure quality of life is better, that there's real affordability, there's job opportunities, and we're all heading in that same direction and can sit at the table and work together, we're going to do that. So I look forward to doing that.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you want to stick around for this, we now have a new commanding officer at the 114 Precinct. If there's anything in my 20 years that I've been involved with civic work locally, it's that the color of the area, the ambience, the feeling is often the commanding officer has a lot to do with creating that. So it changes every couple of years. We're sorry to see Commander Nunez go, but I'm looking forward to having a great relationship and working closely with our new commanding officer. I'd like to bring him on right now. It's Captain Ray Jenkins of the 114 Precinct. Captain.
Hello, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Captain, can you move the phone over a little bit so we can't quite see you?
Can you see me now?
Almost. Tip it up. Better, much better.
There we are.
Hey, good. How are you?
How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us. So I'd like to give you the floor here. You could explain a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and some of your background and what your vision is towards the future.
Well, we're blessed that we opened this meeting up with elect of the borough president Donovan Richards. I'm blessed to say he is was my District 31 council member, as I'm a resident of Queens. Proud to say he served us on the south side of Queens, as I'm proud to come to the north side of Queens and serve you guys here in Astoria in the 114 Precinct. So I'll start off with that. I'm happy to be here. I'm not new here. I was the gang commanding officer of Queens North Gang prior to this assignment. So a lot of the work I did, and a lot of my knowledge of Astoria is with the gang element, which could be problematic, but we formulate plans to get on top of that, and just being allowed to to serve you guys, hear your concerns, do my best to address them, and continue a great relationship between the 114. Can you hear me?
Yep, very good. You hear us?
Yes, still connected.
If you're coming through, great.
All right. Yeah, we had technical difficulties initially on the inception of this phone call. So you have any questions for me, or any concerns, or anything you want to bring to my attention?
I'd like to start first with inviting the public out there. They can go into their chat on YouTube or Facebook if they have any questions they'd like to ask. We did get one question here from One of the constituents here, they said, is there a concerted effort to address the increased reckless driving in illegally modified vehicles endangering residents and negatively impacting quality of life? Noisy mufflers, things like that. The amount of vehicles with illegal tints and modified loud mufflers has increased dramatically. And we'd like to know if there's anything in terms of a plan ahead to see if that can be alleviated.
Well, initially when I got here, it was brought to my attention about car meets. 3 areas of concern in the command. One up on Northern, one down near the highway. Due to a lot of the businesses being closed for the COVID outbreak, it leaves a lot of open space for these vehicles to meet and gather. And then it turns into these the car meets with the mufflers and the donuts and stuff. So we've identified 3 points of problematic issues. Met with landowners of those spaces. Tried to formulate plans on how we could get these parking lots shut down and how we can get these get control of it. So we've also done a lot of social media where we've monitored how they organize, but these things are, they're just pickups. Some of them are pickups. They just go, they meet, they gather, they cause, like you said, chaos with the noise of the mufflers and the overcrowding of the cars in these locations. So we've been trying to identify these locations and issue summonses, done operations with our highway unit. And we proceed forward. This is not only a concern here, but it's also a concern in the 108, which is our bordering command. So we've also been working closely with them, so that way we don't get any spillback from their command or vice versa.
Good. Okay. Along those lines too, I'm just bring up something that I know I've discussed with a couple of your community affairs officers too, and this is just a general thought that we have. We had worked quite a bit on closing some streets in some business districts around here, particularly last summer, and we would love the NYPD to readdress at some point the effect that closing a street has on issues such as the one we just discussed. Okay, we feel that by closing the streets and you eliminate these vehicles, a lot of the individuals that come along with those vehicles that have caused trouble, they caused a lot of trouble here on Steinway Street and 30th Avenue over the summer, they would go elsewhere. I think that we saw that on Shore Boulevard when Officer Nunez closed Shore Boulevard. They left, they went to other areas of the district. So we would hope that if in fact we do try for other closures, maybe next spring, because we're looking at maybe relooking at this in the spring, that we could discuss it and possibly come with some sort of resolution so that the businesses can enjoy creating a carless atmosphere. You can keep the road open so it's not too crowded. So for service vehicles, and it can help their economy, and it can also help us in our quality of life issues. So we'd hope that you'd look at that at some point.
No problem. I mean, something like that could definitely be looked at. It's just a matter of logistics. We have to see so we don't cause a traffic issue. We don't cause a lack of parking issue. Bus routes. And if this is the main point that the community is bringing up to try to address car meets and establish business, also we have to think of displacement and where these guys will relocate. Otherwise, we could just close the whole precinct and they won't be here. But then no one will be able to travel to and fro and have a free flow of traffic. Also we also have to take in consideration, parking, street cleanings. Roadways, buses, transportation, bike lanes, and etc. So it's definitely a plan. We have to sit down with the multiple different agencies and see what's the best course of action without causing other issues due to these closures or where these closures would take place.
Understood and totally agreed. I just thought hopefully it could be looked at again, particularly next summer. So okay. Also, I guess other subjects that have come up. has to do, I think one thing that's come up quite a bit has to do with the traffic and traffic controls and the ticketing of vehicles and things like that. This type of, it's not a priority item, I think, but there's a lot of people that basically do ignore traffic laws, both in automobiles and in, frankly, in also alternative vehicles too, like bicycles and things like that. You know, it would, if people followed all the traffic laws, both sides, I think that you would see elimination of 90% of all the injuries and deaths that we see happening now. So sometimes it may take some enforcement to do that. I don't know if that's something that you might want to be looked at in the future, but
well, I mean, currently, as you know, we have an executive captain here, Captain Chowdhury. He oversees. He's my second in command. He oversees traffic. We have our accident-prone locations, and we actually have one of the largest traffic summons units in the borough with the amount of officers and the amount of cars that we go that's strictly solely designated to these concerns. You know, moving violations, accident-prone locations, summonses, scooters. You know, people not wearing the helmets. Seat belts, as you know, it's a new law enacted for all passengers to wear the seat belts. And that unit is, I believe we have about 8 officers in that unit, and the captain overseeing that directly for traffic related violations as well as accident prone locations.
Good. Okay. Well, hopefully that it grows and it makes the quality of life better for everybody. You know? Good. Okay. Also, we have a question from Ernie Brooks, Congressman Maloney. Oh, I'm sorry. This is just, oh, here we go. Maria Packow, issue with the food trucks, fruit stands that are parked on Steinway Street 24/7. The Steinway bid rules no vendors till after 6 p.m., but must leave morning hours. Garbage left on the sidewalk. They don't pay for parking, no violations, nothing. It seems to be that she's questioning about some of the food trucks that are on Steinway Street currently that she says are not getting ticketed. I wonder if there's any comments or if somebody wants to look into that.
Broadway from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay.
I know that there's some recent ones at 30th Avenue in Steinway that I saw.
Okay. I'm trying to look at right now. So we have 2225 the Broadway, 10 p.m. Wait, is this 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
Monday through Saturday.
Okay. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Food trucks.
Yeah. They're not allowed to go on Steinway.
Okay. Okay. So this is, I mean, thank you for bringing this to my attention. This is something that Steinway corridor right there separates 2 sectors. So we have one side of the street is my sector Charlie, and the other side of the street is Adams sector. So that's 4 officers that are designated to each sector that I could make this aware and probably give you some resolution with this issue in the near future.
Good. Perfect. Okay. Speaking of that, do you have any information? This is Sector David here. Okay. So in terms of what's going on down here in our neighborhood, you have any crime statistics? Do we have any tendencies that you see? Anything that would that could give us more insight and things that we could do as a civic association? It's a 2-way street. We can also, you know, help you in what you guys are doing if you let us know what your needs are.
I mean, I would always say paramount is eyes and ears, and assisting us with whatever you see, because this command has over 200 officers, but at any given moment that's split into 3 shifts and different assignments. So you know, there's no way we can be everywhere at once. So I always say eyes and ears are paramount. Just so you know, we have an extensive auxiliary program, which are more eyes and ears that's on the streets. We put them in areas of problematic areas to try to get, you know, intelligence to see what kind of issues that we could get, you know, with the boots to the ground theory. You know, as you know, David sector, pretty much in David, they do house 2.5 of our housing developments, half of Ravenswood. all of Astoria and all of Queensbridge. So that in itself, along with the PSA, we've been working, to keep the violence down there and the quality of life issues there. As you know, also a large predominantly of the mayor's plan to relocate the homeless individuals that are already in the shelters are in hotels within that sector. They're up near Plaza. So we've spoken to DHS and we're working to organize how we can maintain and track without violating anybody's rights or anybody's HIPAA laws, and keeping them housed, but also not allowing them to detrimentally impact the community. That's primarily the focus of Sector David down by you is the developments and the quality of life in the homeless our new homeless population.
This is something that's separate. It may not be within your purview. I'm not sure. One thing that I've noticed that Queens does not have, and I think it's a great program, is any police athletic league facilities. And I don't know whether that's something that can be addressed, but I think that interaction between the youth and the police and the general community itself is extremely important, particularly nowadays. So and this is an avenue I don't think I've heard anybody address, and it's something I think that really might be interesting. So.
Also, that would probably be something with logistics if we could get a PAL or we could get some space. If by my opinion, it'd be something that we could do immediately. But unfortunately, I don't know how well we'll be received or where we could get a place to house or have gatherings to encourage people to want to come out and feel safe with the pandemic. Maybe when things take a downtick and things start to reopen, we can have those gatherings. Contact. A lot of these kids are contact sports, as you know. Basketball is a 5-on-5. Football is, these are all in violation of actually what the executive order has going right now. So it's something maybe we could start to work on and have a blueprint set. So when things do open, we know we have X amount of kids that probably want to participate, and now they have an outlet where they could turn to. That's definitely something I could have my YCO officer start to work a blueprint on. And then maybe we could probably find some real estate that could house a program like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to plant a seed here, and I think it's really, because I know it's a great program. I'd like to see it take root here if we could. So, all right. Any other questions from the audience? Okay, we have one from Claudia Garcia Chamorro. On a daily basis, we get to see electric delivery staff from our local bus here, with no lights on them, no noise, going through red lights, one-way streets. How is the precinct handling this issue? I think this goes back to what I originally asked about some of the traffic issues we're talking about.
Now, what kind of buses are these?
No, they say it's a local, not buses. Excuse me, I read it wrong. Local business here. Okay.
Oh, you mean like delivery scooters?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that goes back to I think I mentioned it earlier with our traffic plan, with the helmets, the violations that we observe, making sure everybody is following the VTL rules and regulations. Like I said, we have a captain that oversees the traffic here, executive second in command, as well as a 8-man traffic unit. So that's usually before we were allowed to ride around solo patrol, which got more coverage, more coverage with more cars. Due to safety reasons, we have to put two officers in a car, which now take 8 and turn them into 4. So any given time, we used to have multiple cars. Now we're down to same amount of officers, but they're in a single car trying to cover the same square footage. So, of course, like I said, eyes and ears. If you can point out a specific location, time frame where you see repeat issues, I'm quite sure we could be directed towards that and address it.
Okay. I got also an anonymous email here, some anonymous questions. but let me read them to you. Okay. Captain Jenkins, what expectations are you setting with your precinct to ensure they protect public safety in terms of COVID and making sure that they wear their masks consistently and properly? Your officers put 12 residents in danger at last week's Sector B Build the Block meeting, held in a small room indoors in an area with rising COVID cases, zip 11105, and not ensuring mask compliance. One of the officers leading the meeting did not wear his mask covering his nose. People were encouraged to remove their masks to drink from a communal plate of donuts. And one man did not replace his mask for 30 minutes during the meeting.
So this is an isolated. Is this an isolated incident, or is this widespread?
Well, I can't answer that. I'm just reading what was sent to me by email.
Okay. I mean, speaking on the department's policy and what we move forward. As you know, we have a new chief of patrol, formerly the borough commander, our chief Juanita Holmes. She used to be the Queens North Borough Commander. She's the chief of patrol. So we have specific mandates to be covered in public. We have a inspection sheet that I have my integrity control officers, supervisors out there randomly inspecting. So, like I said, if this is, I mean, you can't really give me an answer, but unless this is an isolated situation, for the most part, even myself, as I've been out there, we've been observing to see if the masks are worn. And myself personally, I have not observed any of my officers in violation. But if this is a concern at private event meetings like a build-a-block, I'm sure that instruction can be passed on. So that way at any further meetings, or at least until we can get through this pandemic, it'll be instructed.
Okay, and another question is, would the precinct consider having their community-based meetings, such as Build a Block or your community council meetings online, so that there can continue to be outreach to the community in a safe manner?
I actually had a virtual meeting yesterday evening with the community board one. That was virtual, and the concerns were, in today's time, we have to do things a lot of socially awkward interactions where we don't get to, be in the same room and present ourselves and see each other, and with what we have going on. So the consensus of the room, the general feel of that meeting was the lines of communication are open to the 114. The community affairs officers, myself, is already established. So I don't think a meeting kind of limits us. So if there's an issue going on, right now, we should all have the means of reaching out, getting on the phone or speaking, and not being held to every month on a Tuesday to voice all these concerns. So we said we wanted to open up our lines of communication a little bit more, and don't have people feeling like they have to wait for Tuesday at 7, the third Tuesday at 7, rather than just getting on right then and there or reaching out, and at least until this is over.
Okay, well, we're more than willing to help out any way we can too, as an organization, to be one of your conduits for these kind of messages. Okay, so we'd love to be able to do that,
Thank you.
I also have a comment from Ana Rodriguez from Mount Sinai, who says, welcome to Commander Jenkins.
Thank you.
And the 114th Precinct does a great job with the Law Enforcement Explorer Youth Program. Okay.
Yes, thank you. We have about 18 youth in the program currently, and due to, like I said, I hate to keep being a dead horse, but due to the pandemic, people are afraid to come out and socialize because even, they have elderly ones at home or people at risk, or just the fear of being infected or getting sick. So it has taken a toll on our social interactions tremendously, especially for kids. I know they're probably missing out on a lot of things that we all can say we took advantage of, like proms and graduations and birthdays and celebrations, all the little achievements that make you feel special, like growing up. So, like I said, hopefully we can get back on track, but for now, everything will probably be over the phone or virtual or or just if we happen to see each other in the street at a job or something. But everything else is going to be on pause at least until the 15th when this executive order is lifted. Hopefully.
Hopefully soon. And we have a message actually for Community Affairs Officer Chacon. Carlos, are you there?
Yes,
there he is. Okay, you have a message here. It says it's from George Rivera. It says, "Thank you for preserving the safety of people during the Astoria pro-police rally last month." So,
my pleasure.
Okay, so that was from George. Okay, are there any other messages out there from anybody? Oh, here we go. Another one from Marie. Daily night bike riders for entertainment. What's this now? No plates for bikes, harassing people. They're talking about the motorcycle riders at night. Okay, again, harassing people, making a lot of noise, endangering everyone around them, running through red lights, cutting off cars like they own the streets. It's again, we're going all back to a lot of these traffic issues, which is, again, going back to the beginning of our conversation. So we really hope that you can look at that and address that. Again, it's something that is, to us, is not just specific towards these. There's a certain group of real problem makers, but it also is involving with delivery drivers and drivers of cars and vehicles who ignore bike lanes, and there's just many issues out there that need to be addressed. Even delivery trucks too, that double park constantly. All these issues. I know one of the issues that happens is that it's very easy to dump a lot of problems on the police department. I think that's something that this city has done. It's dumped most of its problems on you guys for the last 20 years. Problems that can only really be addressed by the different agencies working together. But people are expressing these, and they know it's a real problem for their quality of life, and it's something that they should expect their government to be able to solve.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned that, because what was also mentioned at last night's community board meeting was the fact that I tasked my community affairs officers with inviting all agencies who may have any available, recourse to address these situations to the meeting, rather than we have a revolving door. If it's an issue that involves DOT, they should be on the line. If it's an issue that involves sanitation, they should be on the line. Homelessness, DHS should be on the line, so that way you can get a more precise, plan at what's going to happen, rather than me saying I can do something and it's in the hands of another agency, or they have a different mission or a different objective with what's going on. So I think that we could get more done by opening up the lines of communication and invitation to everyone who has a stakeholder in the command, especially with the issues.
Well, we would love to be helpful of that and a conduit of it. We've always really pushed for, I guess, what we call a holistic method of dealing with issues of the public in many ways, and we'd love to be a part of that. So, okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I think if there are more questions, go ahead and put it in the chat. Please put your information down so we can reach out to you, and we'll get back with you on the answers. But we'd love to thank Captain Ray Jenkins and also Community Affairs Officer Chacon for joining us. They've done a great job, and we're looking forward to a lot of good years working together.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so next, we have Mount Sinai Hospital. We have the Chief Operating Officer, Judy Trilivas, and we're going to be discussing Mount Sinai, but also the current state of COVID. As we all know, we're now entering a period where we're extremely vulnerable, and we have to be very careful as to how we deal with life and quality of life in the next few months. There is an end in sight with the vaccines, but we have to get there in one piece. So with that, I'd like to turn the dais over to Judy Trilivas.
Hi, thanks a lot, Richard. And thank you for inviting me to give you an update on COVID. I brought some statistics regarding that, as well as an update on how the state of the hospital during this period of time. So I'm going to share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you see it?
Maintaining a focus, yes.
Okay. Okay. So why are we not going? Okay. Okay. So I thought I'd start with some statistics, and I think everybody knows that this is a moving target. These are changing several times a day. I mean, I did these slides yesterday, and some of the information is already outdated. So just to go over, you can see by the heat map that we've got a lot of COVID in our country. And we've had, in the last 14 days, a 79% increase in cases, deaths, 38% increase, and hospitalizations, 48%. So as of November 17th, which was yesterday, we had in the United States 159,508 new cases, over 1,500 new deaths, and over almost 77,000 hospitalizations, which is really, really scary numbers. So this is how we look in the city, and this was as of 3 p.m. yesterday, which again is changing. For new cases yesterday in New York State, we had over 5,000 new cases and over 30 new deaths. In the city, we had almost 2,000 new cases with 10 new deaths. And you can see visually on the graphs how in September we were very low, and we started to peak in November, in October, and then November we really started to spike. And you can hear all of this on the news because every day it's more and more information, and it's moving very rapidly because that's what COVID does. So this I pulled off today, and I thought it was very interesting to share with everyone because many of your listeners come from our primary and our secondary service area, and these are the positivity rates over the last 7 days in the zip code. So many of you can look here and see your zip code. For example, I not only work in 11102, but I live in 11103. So I work and live in this neighborhood. And as you can see, and it has probably changed since we put this slide together, we are at almost, in those two zip codes, 3%. And it goes as high as 5.23% in Elmhurst, which is our neighbor, which is very close. And if you remember when we first, in March and April, we were the epicenter of the epicenter. And our two hospitals, and I'll speak for Elmhurst also, were extremely busy because of the amount of COVID. So as you can see, the numbers are climbing, and this is where we stand in these service areas. Now, Staten Island stands all alone, and you can see they're probably between 5 and 5.9%. They're really high. We don't want to get there in our area.
I heard Breezy Point's very high also too, right?
Breezy Point, I heard that also. So there's, it's changing every day, but we want it to go, we don't want it to be blue. We want it to go closer to the, I'll call it green. But right now we're on the incline. So how do we get community spread? So it really starts with, if you look at this slide, you look at the two red dots, it really starts with a very small gathering, and these people move on and they go into a larger group. Then the infection spreads, and you can see the dots get larger. And then you develop a cluster, which is a large group of people in a community that have COVID. And then those people, when we live in New York, they go out, they mingle, they go out and they interact with other people, and that's how you get community spread. It is so fast and so easy. Now, they've identified the clusters in Queens. We've had clusters, and we've had different clusters. We've had clusters in Brooklyn. We've had it in Broome, Orange, and Rockland counties. So that's why the focus is limiting mass gatherings, enforcing the social distancing and the proper mask wearing. What I found out today, and this was in the afternoon, that parts of Astoria are now considered a yellow zone. So that means we're at over 3%. And actually where the hospital is, we're now considered a yellow zone. And now the Cuomo this afternoon said that all of New York City might move to an orange zone. So I actually went, before the meeting started tonight, I went on the website of the Empire State Development, and they have guidance or guidelines and frequently asked questions. So if we in New York City go into an orange zone, what that means is for non-residential gatherings, 10 people maximum, indoors or out. For residential gatherings, 10 people maximum, indoors and out. Houses of worship, 33% of capacity or 25 people. This is when businesses, certain high-risk, non-essential businesses like gyms and fitness centers, barbershop and hair salons are closed. And then again with the dining, it's only outdoor dining, takeout and delivery, and schools are closed. And when I put the slides together, as I said before, schools were not closed. But at 2:30 today, we were notified that schools are closed. So how quickly things change. That's why, honestly, in the hospital, we have 2 very high-level calls every day with every hospital, giving all of the data as it pertains to the whole health system. And we get updates on what's going on in the city and the state. The governor also announced that they're going to, any SUNY students, before they go home, they're going to be tested, which is a great thing because you don't want the students going home and becoming that spreader. So this is information that's changing every day. And if we become orange, this is what's going to happen. If we become red, they prohibit any residential gatherings at all. So we definitely want to prevent going into that category. So this is the current state of COVID in our health system. You know, we have the 7 hospitals, and this is where we stand in the health system. And again, there's another visual here that shows you how we were coasting August, beginning of September, and then how it started to climb. So right now, as it stands, we have about 154 patients across all of our hospitals. We had a sharp increase this week, and I think you can very palpable. You hear it on the news. You see what's going on, closing schools today. You can see that it's getting to a point where it's increasing rapidly. And that's why I think everybody's trying to be so diligent about talking about the holidays and what we can do to prevent the spread during the holidays. So, and then of those 154 patients, about 24% of them are requiring ICU. But the good news is we learned so much from COVID in those few short months. We learned about how we treat the patients, and we learned how to keep our operations going. So the good news is that we are all running our regular operations.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on at Mount Sinai, Queens? So about 5 weeks ago, we definitely felt the uptick. But the good news is it's been subsequently relatively flat, the admissions. What we are getting an increase in is people coming to our emergency department, and they could even be asymptomatic but wanting COVID testing, being concerned that they were exposed to someone that had COVID, or just feeling very anxious about it. So in July and August of the testing that we did, and we do testing in our ED, whether you're admitted or not, if it warrants the ED visit. If you're admitted, everybody gets tested, and we do testing on every patient who's having a procedure. So before you come in for a procedure, you have to go for a COVID test. So of those areas that we're testing in July and August, our positivity rate was about 2%. In September, 2.6. October, it started to creep up, as you saw in the graph before. It was 5.9. And now our month to date in November is about 6.5% positivity. So as I said before, you know, in such a short period of time, what amazed me is how treatments were developed. Now, nothing's the magic bullet. We're all waiting for our vaccine, but how quickly treatments were developed, and we learned so much on how to treat these patients. So this just breaks them up by category. So if someone's asymptomatic or has mild illness, as I said, they might come into our ED. They say, oh, I had a headache this morning and I want to know if I have COVID. And they're discharged. It's just supportive care, just as if you had a cold, the flu, etc. If you are admitted and it's considered moderate symptoms requiring some oxygen, so it's like 2 or 3 liters via a nasal cannula, you're admitted, you're getting remdesivir, which you've all heard, which is that broad spectrum antiviral, the antibody therapy, dexamethasone, which is steroids, and anticoagulation, which is a blood thinner. And we learned a lot. We weren't doing that in the beginning because we didn't know that these were treatments that worked. If somebody has severe COVID, they're usually in a higher area, our telemetry or our intermediate care unit. They require high flow nasal cannula, which is a very high concentration of oxygen, or BiPAP. Many people have heard of what a BiPAP is. It's a mask and it's forced. It's like forced air going in with high concentrations of oxygen. They get the same treatment. So moderate and severe get the same treatment, which is the remdesivir, the antibiotic therapy, the steroids, and the anticoagulation. Now, if you're critical, you're in the ICU, you're on mechanical ventilations, what they're given is then just the steroids and the anticoagulation because the other 2 treatments don't work at that point. So in the beginning, if you recall, one of the hardest parts as a leader at the hospital, you know, you really feel like you're at war and you're a general in an army and you're working with your staff, with the patients, the visitors. One of the hardest things to do was to see that our patients could not have any visitors. And it really was very, very, very sad, but it was also scary for our patients and for our families. And Anna is joining me tonight. Anna is our community affairs director, as well as she oversees all of our patient advocates. And she was very instrumental is when we were not able to have visitors to be able to FaceTime, assist our patients with FaceTime. We had did Zoom via our iPads with our patients and families. And she was very instrumental in helping because many of our patients are elderly and they didn't know how to do FaceTime and Zoom, etc. But now, you know, once the governor released some of those restrictions on visitors, right now we allow 1 adult visitor a day, maximum 2 per day though. That all of the visitors are screened. We have a screening protocol that changes as guidelines change. They're all screened in our hospital pavilion and our ED entrances. We only have visiting hours from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And there's visitation is no more than 4 hours and 2 hours in our emergency department. And there are some exceptions to that. So for example, if you have a pediatric patient, someone who is dying, someone who's being discharged, et cetera, we make exceptions. So that's all on a case-by-case basis. Mm-hmm. But anyone who attempts to visit and has been diagnosed with COVID within the previous 10 days, they're not allowed. If they've had contact or close contact with someone diagnosed within the past 14 days, and if what we don't allow, if that COVID patient is receiving something called an aerosol treatment, that visitor has to wait until the treatment is over before they can go in and see the patient. So we monitor this, and this all goes by the guidelines of what the governor puts out. So we get a lot of questions about testing. And so what we currently are doing at Mount Sinai Queens is that we test all patients that are admitted or patients that come to our ED and are symptomatic. We will do COVID testing. Now, that doesn't mean they're admitted, but they would get a COVID test. And we also test patients for influenza because they did find out in the past from March and April that people could get COVID and the flu. So you can have a positive test for both. So we are testing for influenza at the same time. We test people who come in and say they have close contact with someone who's been diagnosed with COVID in the past 14 days. And one of the recommendations that we make is if you've had close contact with someone who has been diagnosed in the past 14 days, but you are asymptomatic, you want to wait 5 to 7 days from exposure because that's the best time to find out if you are positive. Sometimes if you do it too fast, you could get a false negative. But again, with something like that, you speak to your healthcare provider and take the advice that they give you and follow their instructions. Because there are still false positives and false negatives out there. And then any of our patients that are being discharged and going to a nursing home, a shelter, or an adult care facility, they are all being COVID tested and have to be negative before they leave. So we will know the reason for that is because we had so many deaths in the nursing homes. And again, as I said before, anyone going for a procedure will all be tested anywhere in the health system. So this happens to be our critical care clinical nurse manager. And I'll tell you, and that is one of our intensivists. 2 tremendous workers, did a fabulous job during COVID. And you can still see they're still smiling under those masks. So what are we doing to stay prepared? So as I said before, we monitor numbers daily. We monitor not only numbers, our PPE, et cetera. We monitor the system and the city numbers. We test all admissions. We have daily staff screening. If you come into the facility, if you pass by at 7:30 in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, you'll see staff lined up. Every staff member has to do an attestation before they come in. They need to show the security personnel that it's green and not red, because if it's red, that means they have symptoms and they have to contact our employee health, and we do temperature checks in the lobby. We have learned a lot about PPE and we're constantly monitoring that. And we are required to have a 90-day supply of PPE, which we do, and more. And then we definitely have sufficient inventory of ventilators and other monitoring equipment. I actually had to open up another area just to store all of the additional equipment that we keep on in the hospital now for these patients. So one of the things, and Anne is very instrumental in this, is working to keep you healthy, because everyone knows that if you have comorbidities, you are more likely to get sicker from COVID. So one of the things that we've been doing a lot is health education via Zoom. And so we're asking you, we have YouTube channels, and they are Know Your Cholesterol Numbers, Coping with Stress and Anxiety, What do you do for a sudden cardiac event, Healthy eating, and up next, beginning in December, excuse me, they're going to be doing something on how COVID-19 affects your eyes and managing your orthopedic health. So go to youtube.com and search Mount Sinai Queens. I've been talking all day, so let me just water.
You're allowed.
So because what we do is Zoom all day, Zoom meetings all day. So how can the community help? We can never say this enough. And I think everybody is saying it, but we're still seeing it. It's not happening. So what I say to everyone is, do what's in our control. What can we control? What can we do? These are the things we can do. A great visual. We actually round in the hospital because we look at staff too. This is the way you wear a mask, and this is the way you not wear a mask. How many times are you talking to people and the mask is under their nose? on their chin. That's not the way to go. You're not protecting yourself or anybody. Also, don't use those valves. Those valve masks are not good because basically we don't allow anyone to use them. And we, even if visitors come in, we give everybody a hospital mask because they're just breathing out it's not protecting you. They're breathing out if they have COVID. They're breathing out the COVID. So wear your mask appropriately. So I just said that. I talked about the exhalation valves, washing your hands, cleaning and disinfecting, frequently touched objects, household services. We do that in the hospital. We have a lot of high touch areas, doorknobs, faucets, things like that. Stay home if you're sick. We can't stress that enough. Tell family members and friends to stay home, especially if they're sick, and practice social distancing and limit your travel. And especially now, we have to be so conscious because what the concern is that 7 to 14 days after Thanksgiving, we don't want to see this really jump and we really start having, a problem with much more COVID patients. And if we can control it for Thanksgiving, we'll control it for Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all the other holidays that are coming up. So that's basically it. Some more of our champions. And I don't know, Anna, do you want to say anything? I don't know if Anna's still on. There she is.
There she is. Hey, Anna, say hello to everyone.
Maybe you want to talk a little bit more about the education? You're on mute,
I
Anna.
can't hear you. You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy, and thank you, Richard, and for inviting us to speak and to be here with the community. We are so grateful to the community as well for being there to supporting us during the pandemic, and whether it was with letters of thank you, with meals. Your organization, you yourself came with some of your members and donated lunch for our staff. So that was such a critical.
It was our pleasure.
Time. Yes, and we are very appreciative of all the support that we received. And we're going to continue providing the education, as Judy mentioned. And on December 10th, we are hosting, how COVID may affect your eyes. So I'm going to send you the flyer, Richard, so that you can share with your membership. And we're going to have other multiple future programs. So I'm going to communicate with you and send it to you so that you can share with everyone. Thank you again.
The good news about these programs is you can have much more people.
Absolutely.
You don't have limited, conference room space, et cetera. So
yes,
all of that, that's the one good thing, that you can do. You can have a lot more participants. Yes. And I have to echo what Anna said. The amount of community support was unbelievable. And we're a very congested community, but a very close community and a very tight-knit community. And it really is, I'm very proud to not only work here, but live here.
Yes.
Here. I like that too. Yep. Good. I have a question, actually, Judy. What is the current status of surfaces? I know that when all this first started, it was so important to wipe everything down. They were doing, within the subways, they were doing all the cleaning with the ultraviolet lights, and it was just a very, intense thing that was going on. Then I've heard that they found that actually the virus does not stay on these surfaces so long, or I'm not exactly sure what the...
You know what? Let me get the actual information from our epidemiologist, what the word of the today is. But I do know we are still wiping down high use areas. And I do think it still stays on the surfaces. I think that's why you have to wash your hands. So I'll get what they're saying today about cleaning surfaces. But most people are still doing all the cleaning. This is
because the governor even said something along the lines of they didn't need to do the cleaning they were doing on the subway. It was very expensive. He had mentioned something like that. When I heard that, I said, "Oh, really?" I'd just like to find out more about that.
So I'll talk to Dr. Mazo, she's our epidemiologist, and I'll get that, and you can then share it with everyone.
Okay, great, thanks. But we have to keep using our Lysol if we can find it. Yeah.
No, I know. That's, yeah,
How-
Clorox, Lysol, peroxide.
Mm.
We use a lot of cleaning products, but that are COVID-19 killers, let's say.
Do you know if, in general, all over the country, how the stock of PPE is? Do we have any situations where I know that within the hospital you said 90 days, but in
We're
general,
required to keep 90 days, but we have also a warehouse that there's more than 90 days.
oh, okay.
So then everyone, and I'm sure all over the country, I can only speak for our health system, but we were never short of PPE during the whole entire time. And we have been stockpiling since. There are a tremendous amount of people involved. And as I said, this is a major focus every day, all day, until we see an end to this. Because nobody wants to get caught in the situation that we had before when it came, and it came so fast, and we had to really improvise as we went along. So right now we've got enough PPE to care for the patients we have now, and if we have a major surge.
And last question is, there's so many different kinds of masks out there. I know you mentioned the ones with the aerator, or whatever you call it,
The valves, yeah.
the valve, but even beyond that, I mean, there's the KN95s, the N95s, the surgical masks, all these other ones that are just cloth masks that you wear in the gym, the kerchiefs. There's so much different stuff. Do you have information on what's really effective?
So I only have information on what we use, and we use masks that are only approved by our infection prevention and our employee health and safety groups. So the N95s that we use and the regular surgical masks that we use, we don't allow our staff to wear the cotton masks, the designer masks. And visitors are not allowed either when they come in, or patients when they come in. We keep a stockpile of masks at our front entrances. So if you come in with a cotton mask, we're going to give you a hospital approved mask. As far as the other ones go, one of the things that some people do is they put a mask on, and if you blow out a candle through the mask, they say it might not be that good. I don't know if that's I just know that there are the regulations that we follow, and the requirements are followed by our infection prevention. And there are agencies that certify the masks, and we utilize all of those masks. We don't use other masks that we are not approved before we put them on the floors.
Okay. Is there a place, where somebody can access that? Would that be going through the...
I'll ask Dr. Mesa.
I'd like to get that information out to everybody, along with the surface
criteria. I'll ask if there's any type of criteria for purchasing a mask.
Good. Okay, are there any other questions in the chat? Does anybody? I know that she covered just about everything. This happened last time you were here too. You covered so much that you answered everybody's questions.
Well, we do a lot of this because a lot of people are asking questions. And
doing a great job.
We also use this to educate our staff. We share this information. We have town halls with our staff because, again, they want to know also.
Good, perfect. Well, listen, if anybody has any questions later, they can actually put them in the chat with their email address, and we will respond and answer it. They can also email Old Astoria Neighborhood Association with any questions at info@oana-ny.org. I'd like to really thank Judy and Anna for joining us again. This is the second time, and every time it's great. We hope we never have to again, or no. Next time we're going to come, you're going to come because you just received a $20 million grant to build new additions. Again, right?
You'll happily come.
Good. Okay, well, thank you so much. You're a great pillar of our community. We wouldn't be anywhere without having your hospital, particularly with all the hospitals that are closing locally right now, and they have been over the last 20 years. And we are indeed fortunate to have a state-of-the-art hospital here. So thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you again.
Thank you. Okay. Good information. If you guys, again, have questions about this, please don't hesitate to ask. We'll find out the answers. Okay, lastly, another thing that happens during this pandemic has been budget cuts and staffing issues, and some of it has resulted in some issues with sanitation. So we decided that we should invite the sanitation department down now. We've had some great citizen groups get together to do some cleanups, and we commend them. It really shows that our community has, as Judy said, it's a great community of people that are really concerned about our quality of life and about each other. We're very lucky to be in it. I've always viewed Astoria as like a village within a city. We feel like we're our own entity, you know, and this is why I love living here. But to that end, we'd like to bring in Joseph Adamelli, who's Community Affairs Officer for the New York City Department of Sanitation. And he's here to let us know what's going on with DSNY and also to answer any questions if anybody has any. So, Joseph, take it away.
Thank you so much for having me on, Richard. Everybody on, happy evening. I just have a brief presentation. I'm going to share my screen, Richard, and I'll begin with that. All right, so just beginning with our current agency updates. First, I want to begin with how our citywide organics has been suspended due to budget cuts in wake of the ongoing pandemic. Fortunately, a number of food scrap drop-off sites exist for which people can visit to dispose of any food scraps they might have. I can relay you that link to the sites, Richard, at the conclusion, so you can distribute that amongst everybody.
And you can put it in the chat too.
Yeah, I'll add it in at the conclusion. Litter basket service has seen a 63% reduction due to the pandemic. With that, though, the mayor has restored some basket service in 27 of the hardest hit communities by COVID-19. Additionally, many folks have been asking about private litter baskets. It is legal for businesses to put out their private baskets in front of their establishments, as long as they follow DSNY and DOT guidelines. A reminder, though, is that private litter baskets and the surrounding area must be kept clean and set out with commercial waste for removal by a private carter. If businesses are not in compliance, they are subject to receiving a violation. And lastly, with what's going on currently, we, as you mentioned, Richard, we are employing volunteer cleanups across the 5 boroughs. Astoria has organized several already. I actually participated in one with Proud Astorian several weeks back. Through this initiative, though, the department works in conjunction with those interested in establishing a cleanup in the area of their choosing, of course. And then once that's all established, we over at Sanitation will bring out the tools for the event: brooms, rakes, gloves, bags, things of that nature, and we'll service it at its conclusion. So it's a really good initiative to get people involved with everything that's going on. And through the various cleanups we've done, the turnout's been good and the results have been promising. So that's something that we're really trying to push, and a lot of people are cooperating with joining forces on that. As we enter the winter months, DSNY is engaged in a seasonal night plow operation, which ensures that each sanitation district is properly staffed in case of a winter storm emergency. During night plow, which runs from now through around mid-April, the operation schedule assures that DSNY will have a sufficient number of employees assigned and available around the clock to operate essential snow fighting equipment in each of the city's 59 sanitation districts. With this, normal trash and recycling collection times may change temporarily, but residents should still place out their items for collection after 4 p.m. prior to their collection day to ensure collection. And additionally, outside of DSNY operations, residential responsibility during snow remains the same. Residents should clear a path that's at least 4 feet wide and remove snow and ice from around fire hydrants and sidewalk corner ramps. I just want to touch once again. I know we've spoken about this in a previous meeting I joined with this group, but brief residential responsibilities. Then I'll go into some commercial responsibilities. First, we just want to reiterate that residents place their trash out for collection at the right time in heavy-duty, securely tied bags. Okay for trash, clear for recycling. Clear sidewalks and gutters extending 18 inches into the street. Clean up after your pet. Make sure your dog
Yes.
is no more than 6 feet in length, and that your dogs do not relieve themselves on public sidewalk and grass strips and private property. And lastly, on the residential front, be sure to recycle metal, glass, plastic, beverages, cartons, paper, and cardboard. And then on the commercial front, we just want to reiterate that with regards to disposing of trash and recyclable, businesses must contract with private carters. Businesses should place their carting details and schedules in their window. This is to ensure that when DSNY field agents go around to inspect these commercial locations during their respective routing hours, it's an identifiable means to see when their trash is and their recyclables is being picked up and who it's being picked up from. Additionally, we want to reiterate to prepare for collection at the right time. Daytime pickup of commercial businesses should be placed out within 2 hours of scheduled collection. Nighttime pickup should be placed out within an hour of close of business day. Remove all tripping hazards. Advertise correctly and not on cars or windows or city-owned property. Be sure to recycle metal, glass, paper, beverage cartons, paper and cardboard. And clear sidewalks and gutters, once again, like the residential responsibilities, extending 18 inches into the street. And businesses should clear a path that's at least 4 feet wide and remove snow and ice from around fire hydrants and sidewalk ramps. Now, I can open that up for questions, Richard, but that's pretty much what we have going on internally.
Okay. I got a couple of questions right off the bat. Maybe you could update us on the commercial, there's new regulations, there's new routes for commercial pickups. I know with restaurants, it's supposed to be much less chaotic and safer because there's so many accidents over the years with commercial trash haulers. So wasn't there a recent change?
Oh, I don't have that information at my disposal at this moment. I can always relay that back to you. But
okay.
You know, everything has been a little bit more chaotic in response to the pandemic, and additionally with everything that's going on. But I can always try to follow up on that front for you, Richard.
Okay. And along those lines, also, does it still remain in effect the street cleaning regulations, which is basically changing the regulations to once a week from twice a week in certain areas? And it's always, I think it was the first day of that's on the sign.
Yeah, no, it's well, if it follows the second day.
The second day, okay, excuse me.
So that's still continuing, yeah. So if it was, it'll be like Thursday, Friday, it'll follow along that front.
What's interesting about that is after, well, a lifetime, there was never any street cleaning in our neighborhood here, and we finally did get it instituted about 2 years ago. And when we did, we had all the regulations changed to once a week. Even the streets that were currently twice a week were moved back to once a week, and then all the streets that weren't being cleaned went to once a week. So it's sort of following in the same thing that you're going to, I think, citywide. And I think it's makes a lot more sense for everybody. What is the current status of street cleaning? Anything different happening, or?
Whatever, the same everything that's been employed right now, that's the same front. We're kind of employing, we've made some alterations with regards to everything that's ongoing with the pandemic, but much of what's been established is ongoing in regards to that. As I mentioned earlier, litter basket service has been altered, but that's in Astoria particularly, that's not one of the neighborhoods that fall under that remark I made earlier about the hardest hitting neighborhood. So
it might, the way things are going though now, I don't know, that might change.
Yes,
that's not a good thing.
Maybe a move towards that. As you walk up and down Broadway, you see the accumulation. So that's only affecting other neighborhoods in Queens at this moment in time.
All right. You know Kate Peterson, proud Astorian, and you said you did work with her.
Yes, I've
sponsored some of her. And we have also sponsored her cleanups here on the waterfront, so she's great to work with. She has a couple of questions that she emailed me, okay, which I'd like to do. Number one, she said, you'd like to hear a summary of what services were cut with a $106 million budget cut. If you have a chance to do that, that would be great. Okay, and then she has other questions too.
Oh, yeah. So do you tackle that question?
Start with one at a time. Yeah. How about
Okay,
what
yeah.
what
So that
cuts
part,
were made?
as alluded to earlier, one of the original one of the first cuts was with our litter basket service. We've seen a 63% reduction in litter basket service. Additionally, other areas that have been hit by the cuts, the suspension of our organics program, our e-waste collection. Those are the areas that have been primarily targeted during this time. So as I alluded to with the organics cuts, that was what I was going to provide with the sites where people are trying to identify where they can dispose of these food scraps they have. And our used to have safe events where people would kind of go throughout their particular borough. There was various ones set up throughout the summer months and throughout the year as to where they can go and dispose of any e-waste or hazardous materials that they had. So those are the primary areas that have been hit at this moment in time. But that's what the amount, the crux of what has been affected in terms of budget cuts internally with us.
Okay. First question from Kate. Okay. What efforts or changes have been made to help community cleanups easier to organize, considering the situation we're in with 2020 and the budget cuts?
So much like what I've done with Kate's cleanup and additional cleanups throughout the city, anybody who's interested, they relay that over to us internally. We get approval from our cleaning office to get the go and set the cleanup up. And then from there, if they so desire to, the particular cleanup group so desires to bring out tools to the event, internally we'll bring out the tools because a rep will come out and participate in the cleanup. And then at the conclusion of the cleanup, we come out and service it. Really, the only responsibility at that end is the people come out and they assist with the cleanup. What we try to assist and make it as easy as possible because they're taking the step forward to assisting and providing a little bit of their time to improve their local communities.
Yeah, so you're doing the logistics mostly.
Yeah, the logistics.
Yeah, good. All right, number 2, reporting overflow litter baskets. What does that really accomplish? Is this just for data tracking, or is the local garage actually able to divert resources to deal with those cans prior to their pickup time?
So we reporting overflowing litter baskets. It's not an effort that we consider like futile, where it's just you're doing it and there's nothing out of it. If the resources are available, the local district will try to employ whatever manpower they have to identify that. It's just about with everything else that's going on and the limitations of manpower and resources on a day-to-day basis that kind of inhibit it from responding on a more, I guess, immediate basis. But anything like that, once if it comes back to us, we try to do our best to at least mitigate these issues as best as possible in the most convenient time that we can.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. How do they decide the service level for litter basket pickups, and why is the public not able to access the schedule? For example, if businesses knew that the cans on the block were only picked up Mondays and Thursdays, could step up to assist on other days.
So additional litter basket service, you're asking?
No, in other words, what they're saying is if people knew the schedule of the current service and they knew that certain days that they picked them up, they might be able to do assist on the other days internally. Maybe the businesses could.
We can always litter basket schedule. It varies district and whatnot, but I can always retrieve that schedule and relay that back to you because especially during the what's going on with the pandemic and the changes, what some of the districts that have received additional services, everything is kind of there's a difference amongst every community in regards to what services. But I can always reach out to the district and whatever particular area that you're looking for, whatever strip in Astoria that is of curiosity. I could always try to refine that schedule.
Okay. And the last question here is, The production of new trash cans by vendor Corecraft is currently on hold by the manufacturer based on information given to community leaders. Broken cans are being left out, like at 36th Avenue, as a swinging side door jammed wide open, or replaced with older baskets. What happens when we run out of the older baskets?
Like the wired baskets?
Again, I'm reading, so I can't further. I'm assuming what she's saying is that there are damaged cans right now that are either just being left out or they're being replaced by older baskets, and they may run out of the alternative soon because nothing new is being manufactured.
Oh yeah. So when just basically with the replacement of baskets, that's relayed over to 301, the complaints placed, and then that's basically distributed to us internally. We can actually have litter baskets replaced. It just depends on where and the situation.
Okay. Also, we have a message from Brian Wasaki. Do we have to call before we pick up trash? I'd like to pick up trash when the street looks littered. Where can I put the bags beside my building?
For a cleanup. So that would be for any cleanup like that. We would that would come through us internally, and then we would be able to identify a location where you can place that trash out for collection. You know, whatever you place in the bag, and then if you leave it by a nearby litter basket, a collection truck could come out and service it. But that would have to be identified prior, because we wouldn't be able to just leave the bag there, you know, and expect it to be serviced essentially.
Okay. Okay. I think that Katie actually started to send me a question in the chat.
Okay.
But I don't see where it went. So maybe Kate, you can try again. Anyways, until then, also, and this is a question that came up a lot, actually, because we were working also over the summer with a lot of the businesses and the restaurants concerning their outdoor construction. And then there was actually a town hall today with basically almost all the city agencies, including sanitation, regarding the construction of the on-street dining facilities that are being built and how they're going to deal with snow plowing. So basically, you know, what can you explain in terms of sanitation and how restaurant owners can protect their investments on the street structures that they're building? They're almost like houses now, and basically, and the other, you know, what about other outdoor dining structures, you know, without gutter or street parking to push the snow away? You know, there's a problem with having space to push snow and do that. You know, what's going to happen with, as on the right side, particularly of a plow, because that's where it dumps all the snow. You know, how's all that going to be dealt with? Because that's a huge issue.
Yes, honestly, and I just because of the nature of the unprecedented nature of this situation, the department's still trying to navigate how to move forward with that, because of the fact that you know, the extended features of these setups are you know, proving problematic. So these issues are basically it inhibits the sanitation vehicles to proceed down certain areas because of that, the obstructions by some of these setups.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Another thing is one of the biggest issues I know that, particularly with residential trash cans, which is a constant question we constantly get all the time, not only with the trash cans, but the fact that you've got problems with, we have so many dogs here. I live in our neighborhood in Old Astoria. We're near all the parks. And, you know, quite often people being lazy, they'll just leave the package that their dog left, you know, on somebody's front stoop or something like that, because there's no trash cans around. So we'd love to be able to figure out a way to get, you know, residential trash cans out there. But we know that one of the big problems has been homeowners dumping household trash in, you know, public trash cans in residential areas. That's been the reason why we've told even Parks Department the same situation. They don't have them along Astoria Park South, or they've removed a lot of the cans.
Yes.
you know, to my thought, and this has been an issue for many, many years, the only way you can deal with this is some sort of enforcement. I mean, I hate to say this, but a lot of people will not change negative activities unless they pay a price.
Of course, of course.
So, is there a way where you might target a certain areas for a long enough time with your officers? I think you would be better off targeting trash cans and things like that and watching for people dumping household trash in that, as opposed to ticketing a store owner down the street that the wind blew over a bunch of stuff in front of his, not even a store owner, residential owners on my street. This happens.
Mhm.
The wind blows and you get trash in front of your house. It's not even your trash, and you get the ticket.
Of course.
So that's not fair, but I do think that if you guys focused on household trash, that might make a real change for a lot of people. That can really help everybody's quality of life.
So,
my suggestion.
It's a very efficient suggestion. With that, enforcement-wise, we employ 2 enforcement agents per district across the 5 boroughs, right? So that's a limited number that we have, and especially during especially because of the fact that we can't have these field agents round the clock surveying an area. That even makes things a little bit more problematic. That's why we our enforcement agents operate under the guidelines of being able to use certain forms of evidence and whatnot. So the people who just dump trash in these litter baskets, for instance, they're able to identify by seeing, going through them, ripping up the trash bag, seeing if there's an article of mail or whatnot to trace it back, or pictures, video surveillances, things like that. But unfortunately, just because of the limited manpower and the inability to just say, oh, the problematic area is so and so, to have them sit there around the clock and just wait for something to happen, internally there's just not enough to support something like that. So that's why we kind of just try to work with, trying to always try to encourage, if there's a specific problematic area that's frequently subjected to cases of illegal dumping, improper disposal, that those who are witnessing this or at least coming across it, try to, if they catch people doing it as it's going, try to grab pictures, videos, license plates of whatever car passes by, something like that to work with, because then we can be a little bit more proactive towards improving these situations.
It might be advantageous to start to think about signage to this effect. First of all, a lot of people don't even know that's illegal. Number one. Number two, if you make the community aware, they might start reporting. People are community, like previously with when the precinct was here. If you were listening, basically the community said, how come that they're not wearing masks the way they should, and they started to report this stuff, and so that something can be done about it. This is not to get anybody. This is basically to make everybody safer.
Of course.
In this particular case, the same way. If there is signage or there was some sort of a program, advertising program of some sort, promotional program to make people know that in fact, not only is this something that shouldn't be done, it's negatively affecting the community at large.
Yes,
because of their lack of facilities that they have there. Sometimes a community can police itself in a lot of ways, but you got to give them the information. So it might be something that we're considering.
Yeah, I just was trying to just put in perspective, because I know how this is a question that we come across every area of the city, about how what we could do to make these things a little bit more effective in enforcing certain areas of people just discarding waste at free will and having no repercussions for it. But we try to reiterate what we are suffering with internally. And additionally, I want to add that a lot of our enforcement agents have been, at least in the beginning of the pandemic, were detached to other agencies because of COVID-related response. And that kind of threw a wrench in things even a little bit more further. But I do agree that there needs to be, even signage, like you said, it would be a little bit more proactive towards at least making people more aware of what can be done, what they can and cannot do. Yes.
Okay, we'll take that back with you, and hopefully, when this pandemic is over, it's something that can be addressed. So
Of course.
I hope so. Good. Are there any other questions from anybody in the audience? Please type them in the chat. Kate, I don't know if you got that other message. By the way, this is a big shout out to Kate Peterson and all the other people that have been involved in these street cleanups. So we hope that you continue this, and it's a great example of how the community can stand up to actually help out in the long run when things just aren't running the way they should. So okay, well, Joe, it's a great pleasure to have you join us. I don't see any other questions coming across right now. I look forward to receiving some of that information we discussed, and thank you for joining us.
Richard. Thank you so much for having me on. And
Sure.
Like I said, any additional questions, you can always feel free to reach out. I'll leave my contact information in the chat as well. Okay.
Okay, and I look forward to the time when we can have a meeting in person again and we can when
It feels like, when I was there last year, it feels like an eternity ago now.
It does. It does.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank everybody that presented today, and I want to make a special thanks to Victor Prado. Victor, if you have a second, Victor is donating his time. He's the person that's actually been running this meeting for us. He's been putting out fires behind the scene that people don't even know to make it run as smoothly as it does. So thank you. I'd like, maybe you can explain in a minute or so some of what you do. We'd like to support your business.
Sure. Appreciate it, Richard. I always love to give back to the community, especially Astoria. I'm in Astoria all the time. What I do outside of volunteering for Oana, I do have a social media marketing company, which I just put up my very cool logo here for just a couple seconds. But basically, you can find out more information at ninjamanmedia.com. But what I do is I manage the social media space for small businesses, but I generate value and leads and sales for those businesses with Facebook and Instagram ads. So in this crucial time where everything is online, it's been very beneficial, and I've been able to keep my clients making sales and making money, and they've been able to keep their doors open. So it's a nice way to connect with small business owners, and if I make my clients money, they continue to pay me. So that's how the show keeps on. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for helping out too, and hopefully that I'd like to also give a shout out to Malika Schmidt, who's our webmaster, and I don't think she's on the line right now, but I would like to congratulate her. She is now the proud mother of a little baby boy. So congratulations. The Oana family has grown a bit. So thank you so much for that. And we'd like to also thank Claire Doyle, who has actually been stepping in and helping us out. She was our blogger in the past. She moved to Dublin, but in this age of the internet, she can continue to do some work. She's helped us with our newsletters. Also, I'd like to say that if anybody knows anybody, we are looking for an intern to help with the blogging. Our last blogger had to leave due to some conflicts with school, but we are looking for somebody else. So if anybody's interested in that, please reach out to Richard at oana-ny.org. And again, we'd like to thank Jessica Schabowski from the mayor's office, Ernie Brooks from Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney's office, our new borough president-to-be, Donovan Richards. And again, a shout out to Sharon Lee, our current vice borough president, and a big thanks to Captain Ray Jenkins of the NYPD. Best of luck to him over the next few years. We look forward to working with him. Judy Trilivas and Ana Rodriguez from Mount Sinai Hospital. And lastly, Joseph Adamelli, who just finished making his presentation for sanitation. Again, we thank everybody for joining us. We will let you know what holds in store next month. There are so many changes. I'm not sure what we're going to do yet, but I hope to see everybody next month. And with that, I'm Richard Khuzami, and thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening and a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Thank you.